What's up YouTube? Let's talk about home automation with the Google Home. In this video I'm going to set up and review a couple of dimmers and switches and the hub that you need to get started with all this stuff. The reason I'm doing this now is because the price is finally low enough to make sense. All in, you can get started for about 80 bucks. I bought a handful of devices and we'll be reviewing all of them in this series of videos. It'd be really nice if you could buy everything you need from one company and it just works seamlessly, but unfortunately the top rated products in each category came from different vendors. So I'm going to do my best to distill everything I learned from setting this up. But before I do that, I need to talk about this device. To start things out, you need a hub. The Google Home doesn't have native integrations with a ton of devices, but does support the SmartThings hub, and this lets you control just about any smart device that's out now. The way it works is Google Home reaches across the internet to the SmartThings hub, and that device rebroadcasts it locally to all your home switches, thermostats, and robotic cat torturing devices. I'm getting into the weeds, but knowing how it all works really isn't all that important, because once you set this up, you'll never have to know more than how to say, "Okay Google, turn on the lights." The box includes batteries, I assume to keep it online in the event of a power outage, but if your power goes out, wouldn't your internet also be out? This thing plugs directly into the Ethernet, so find a spot for it next to your router. This is the most boring and most expensive part, but keep an eye out for good deals. I got this one on Black Friday for about 50 bucks. Let's talk about the app for a second. This is not the most well thought out app, but it does have a whole lot of functionality. For example, I can have it automatically turn on the heat when I'm driving home and get within a 10-mile radius. So remember that diagram we looked at a second ago? Using the app, you also have control of everything in your house. What's really cool about this is that it's a self-contained system. If one day I decide to ditch Google and go buy an Alexa, I can basically hot swap those without going through a ton of setup again. Okay, back to our stack of switches and thermostats. Let's take a look at the plug-in dimmers. Those are by far the easiest way to get started. The two best ones on Amazon come from GE for about $40 and another company I've never heard of called Go Control for about $30. This is the GE one. Yeah, I don't really want to bother reading the instructions right now, so let's just plug it in and see if we can get our network to see it. Back on the SmartThings app, we tell it we want to add a device. This makes your hub start looking for devices, and when it finds it, you can rename it to whatever you want. I'm calling this one Fancy Lamp. So now I can control my fancy lamp anywhere, even when I'm not at home, through this app. There's one more step to make Google recognize it using voice commands. We just have to go into the Google Home app and link it with our SmartThings account. Now we can just say, "Okay Google, turn off the fancy lamp."
You got it, turning the fancy lamp off.
Alright, so after a few weeks of using both these dimmers, I can honestly say they function identically. The money you save really adds up if you want to outfit your whole home, so I'd highly recommend the cheaper Go Control one. Alright, let's look at the devices that really make you look like a badass once you've installed them. The wall dimmers. Again, the GE version is going to be a little bit more expensive at about 35 bucks, and the Go Control is about 30. So let's see which one is better here. Before you try to look like too much of a badass, go kill your breaker. You gotta make sure that your box has this white bundle of wires. This is your neutral, and this lets your switch talk to the rest of your system without actually having the lights be on. The chances are pretty good if your house was built after 1980 that you probably have a neutral wire in your box. I'm gonna start with this linear switch. It looks super easy because it has all these wires hanging out, and all we're gonna have to do is just wire nut these to the existing wires. We'll start with the left switch. We've got a neutral, line, load, and ground coming out of this box. All you have to do is tie those wires to the ones on the switch using wire nuts. The way this works is electricity flows from the line to the neutral in order to give the switch just enough power to talk to your hub at all times. Then, when you ask your switch to turn on, electricity also flows from the line to the load and lights up your light bulb. Ground is a safety wire, and under normal conditions, electricity never flows through it. And that is all. We're done with the Go Control switch. The GE switch is virtually the same, but uses screw connectors. Once we're done, let's stuff it all back in the box. So this is something that I don't understand. Both of these manufacturers, GE and Linear, have these little tabs on the side, and that prevents them from going side by side. You can pull them off, and I'm gonna have to do that, but I just don't understand why. These two switches side by side are virtually the same. So unless you really like blue lights for some reason, just get the Go Control one. I found it easier to install and it's cheaper. Again, this stuff adds up. Setting them up is the same as before. Open up SmartThings, rename them, and then tell Google Home to resync with SmartThings. Once you do this, you're done with the apps. Everything else can be done with voice commands. Okay Google, turn off the kitchen.
You got it. Turning 2 lights off.
Something I learned is that these are Z-Wave devices, not Wi-Fi. And the important distinction is that they can do mesh networking. So for example, if a device over here picks up a signal that's not meant for it, it can rebroadcast it to all the other devices nearby. And so you could actually cover a pretty huge house easily. That's it for this one, but I have more videos to come. So if you're interested in hearing more about my experience with setting up Google Home Automation with things like thermostats and universal remotes, then hit that subscribe button below and leave me a comment on what you'd like me to cover next. I'll see you in the next one. Peace.